So with the warmer weather, people are getting more active. And as people get more active, they get more injuries, their muscles get tighter. And the question is, should you or should you not start to improve or change or even just begin a stretching routine? If you look on Google, you'll find loads of articles about the benefits of stretching and why you should stretch. And you will also find lots of articles saying that stretching is bad for you, it damages you, it's not helpful, it's not necessary. So today I wanted to talk about that question. Is stretching beneficial or is it damaging? If you're new to the channel, my name is Catherine. I'm the founder of LSM Clinic and the creator of Creighton Structural Massage. And in this channel, I share information about how the body works and tips to hopefully help you stay pain-free as you live your life and enjoy your favorite activities. Now, stretching can be a very contentious topic. It's kind of like foam rolling the IT band. Depending on who you ask, you'll get some very strong opinions. Now, I have worked with the body over 10 years, since 2008, and I've seen, I think, every variation of stretching and what you can do with it. I very strongly believe in the benefits of stretching because I've seen it in my clients, but it's very specific how it is beneficial. And if you don't follow the rules for what you need to do to safely and effectively stretch, you will cause damage and you could very well end up injured. I have 100% seen clients who have injuries because of stretching, but it's because they've been doing it incorrectly. So let's talk about some of the reasons why it can be damaging and how it can be really useful. Now, I do have a stretching series, which is why and how you should stretch, number 1. Number 2 is the 5 steps to stretching perfection. And number 3 is common mistakes that people make while stretching. So I'll link that below. And I strongly recommend you watch it if you'd like to go more into depth about any of these things. This is going to be a little bit more of an overview. But it's also come about because, I take my kids to parkour and I watch people like bouncing into their muscles and like straining into the deepest stretches they can. And I'm just like, oh, they are really setting themselves up for injury. So I decided I wanted to do a video on this. So first of all, you should stretch tight muscles that are the result of an imbalance in the body or overuse. So that means that you probably don't have to stretch every single muscle. When I work with clients, we identify which muscles are tight and which need to be focused on. So for example, if your hamstrings are fine, if your hamstrings aren't tight, don't stretch them. If your quads aren't tight, don't stretch them. In working with clients, so let's say, for example, runners, if people are running with really good form and their glutes are activating and their lower abdominals are activating and their gait is right and they're landing correctly under their feet and their cadence is good, they actually don't develop that many imbalances. It's when things aren't working the way that they're supposed to, when their gait is off, or maybe they have a legacy from an injury that they never rehabbed properly, then they start getting tension. So you do want to stretch or release those muscles. But you can't stop there because those muscles are getting tight because there's another problem. So if you don't get to the bottom of that problem, eventually you're going to get injured. Now, the way that I feel like it looks, because I've worked with a lot of bodies, right? And I have seen muscles release with massage and then they stop releasing. It's like, for example, when I first started, I would have clients who had really tight quads and I'd release the quads effectively and they'd feel great. And then of course they'd get tight again. And so they'd come in for another session and I'd massage them again and they'd feel good. And then they'd come back. But eventually the quads stopped responding to the massage. And of course, I was the whole time like, well, why are their quads getting so tight? Why is this happening? And we worked out through training and experimentation that is glute activation, that if the glutes aren't activating, the quads are overworking, the position is too far forward, etc. Once we got the clients to start doing the glute activation, then the quads would start to release again. So what I have observed is that if a muscle doesn't want to release, if I look elsewhere and find a problem elsewhere and address it, then that muscle releases. And it seems like the body has a sense of where the imbalances are. And it's like, no, I need to be tight here because I'm compensating for something else. And it doesn't really want to let go until you do. And I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but it happens over and over and over again in my clinic. So if you are stretching where you are tight, but you're not finding the underlying cause, eventually your muscles are going to stop responding to the stretch as much. And what usually happens then is people double down on the stretching. They stretch really hard and they stretch for longer until they feel like they get the benefit. And if you stretch too hard and too long, you can seriously injure your muscles, right? Because you're just pulling and pulling and pulling on them without any kind of awareness of what they need or what they're feeling. And so that puts me to another thing. If you bounce into your muscles or if you push into your stretch, that's not going to be beneficial for you. When you're stretching, you are trying to get your brain to reduce how tight you're holding the muscle. There's also an aspect of releasing fascia and fascial stickiness. But if you push really hard into a stretch, the body's response is to protect itself. The muscle's response is to protect itself. So the muscle tightens against the force because the force is so strong. It will eventually, if it's not too strong, stop tensing against it and start to release. But I have had clients who have stretched so hard and so long, their muscle literally refused to release in a stretch until we took them way out to where they weren't even feeling a stretch at all, but I could feel that the muscle was stretching, and then they started to feel better. So one of the most common misconceptions in stretching is that you're supposed to go as far as you possibly can to get the benefit. That's actually not true. And if you come in for a session with us, we can show you a way that we stretch the quads that feels like nothing, but gives you a huge benefit in how much more flexibility you get in the muscle. So don't push really hard. You're working with your nervous system. You're working with the muscle and the tone that it's holding. You're not brute forcing your muscle. You're not. I remember one time I had a yoga class with somebody. This was years ago, right? And he said that when you stretch, you're micro tearing your muscles. And I was like, not if you're doing it correctly. You should not be tearing your muscles when you stretch them. So there's that. Let me just check my notes. What else do I have here? Oh, so one of the things that you can do to test if your stretching is effective is doing before and after tests. Now, one of the reasons that you're going to want to do this is if you start stretching the correct way, in my opinion, the way that I've seen to be effective, you might not feel a strong stretch while you're doing it. In fact, you might not feel any stretch at all. So how do you know there's a benefit? You test before and after. So for example, let's say that you want to stretch your quad. You could bend your knee. So you're bringing your heel towards the back of your hip. You could lift your knee up. That's basically it, right? That's the movements for the quad. I guess you could bend your knees forward and bend your ankles forward. And then you do the stretch and then you retest and see if it feels different. And if it feels different, you've released it. And if not, you've done something incorrectly. You can see more detail about how to stretch in the video in the stretching series number 2, which is 5 secrets to stretching perfection or something like that. So if you are aware of why the muscle is tight and you're addressing the underlying cause for that tension to be built up, and you are stretching mindfully and gently to release the muscle and not pushing it around and really forcing it. Also, you're not only stretching where the pain is, because if you feel tight one place, it's almost always related to somewhere else. So you don't want to just go, oh, I have pain here, so I'm going to stretch this. Sometimes where you have pain is actually where the muscle is inflamed and irritated. So if you stretch that, you will damage it more. So the upshot is stretching is very, very beneficial if you do it correctly and safely and respectfully to your body. And it can be very harmful if you're not doing it respectfully to your body and you're not mindful about what you're doing. So if you would like more help with stretching, as I said, I'm going to link the 3 below. We can always see you in a session in London if you're local, or if you have questions, just drop a comment below, right? Because we want you to be injury-free this summer and beyond. All right. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with somebody you know, or maybe who needs a little nudge to stop bouncing into their muscles. And if you enjoyed this video, you could subscribe and then you'll be notified when I release more. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you later. Bye.